around and I miss the light. And to turn the light on, and I yell out the name Elsa out of nowhere, and like she's trying to make me feel safe, but I don't. It's really awkward and uncomfortable, and over my shoulder, and she starts strangling me in my sleep. My name is Amber Bongrat. I am an international best-selling author, speaker, and soul detox coach. I grew up in the country, like a very small town, and my elementary and junior high was Catholic. And there was a Catholic church right beside there. So I've always like kind of had this sense of something bigger and higher and above me. And I would go to church because everyone at school would go to church. You either stay behind or you walk to church with everyone when there's mass and stuff. So I wasn't baptized, so I kind of felt left out whenever we would do the bread and all that kind of stuff. But I just, that's all I knew. And my mom never took us to church. My dad never took us to any religious institution. So that's just kind of what I knew growing up. And what happened was I actually had circumstances spiritually where things were following me. I was having nightmares. I've had vivid dreams when I was younger, and then they kind of like went away. And then they came back when I started spending more time on my own and spending time with different people. Like I've always, especially from the country where it's like our high school is 1,000 people and there's like 2 Black people and everyone else is white, like going from that to being more diverse with sport, where now I moved into the city and I'm seeing more diversity, more culture. And my biggest piece of advice for people who are like looking to get to know themselves is to surround themselves with different people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you get to learn more. You get to learn and step out of your comfort zone. So that's what I did. I had friends that were atheists. I had friends that were Christian. I had a friend that was Muslim, but none of them were practicing. But we still had these really, really great conversations. And then when I started becoming more spiritual, like I was sharing, in university, and I'm having these conversations, and what my Muslim friend had said to me, a lot of what you believe is in the Quran. And I was like, no, what is that? And I was like, I need to sit down with you, So I took them, we went out for coffee, and I sat down and I wrote out for like 3 hours, like pages and pages of all these notes. And I'm like, well, what's the difference between like Christianity and Buddhism and all this stuff, right? And alhamdulillah, this person provided me with information if they had it. And if they didn't, they went and got it and then came back to me. So during the middle of this, I had to really navigate through like what I believe truth was and what my next steps were. And my next step really was, what is it like to pray like a Muslim? Like, what does that feel like? Because even in the Bible, it talks about the true believers pray on their hands and knees. So I was like, well, what does that feel like? SubhanAllah, whenever we submit and we put our forehead to the floor, it's almost like we're grounding that knowledge of what we think we know. And we're saying, Ya Allah, or God, show us what we need to see and allow us to see what we need to right now. And so I went in with that intention. I went in, just really unapologetically with the intention of I want the truth. And so I started praying like a Muslim. And I remember one day I went to the mall, and at this point in my life, I was still in that spiritual phase where I was like, is this right for me? Like, should I have crystals? Should I have like, should I be meditating? Like all this kind of stuff that I was asking myself. And so I went to the mall one day, and there was this tea shop, and it was right beside this crystal store with all these rocks and all this kind of stuff and incense. And so I go and I step into this tea shop because I love tea. And I go inside, right? I go inside, and there's this lady working, and she's the only one there. She's not a hijabi, so I didn't know she was Muslim. And I walk in, and she helps me out, and then she says, can I tell you something crazy? And I was like, honestly, at this point in my life, you can't surprise me. Like, I've been having all these crazy dreams. I've been like experiencing things that I've never experienced before. And I was like, yeah, like for sure. And she was like, are you spiritual? And I said, yes. And she's like, do you have crystals on you? And I said, yes. So like I, rolled up my sleeve and I showed her my bracelet and my amethyst. And she said, she was like, I know you think you're Buddhist. She's like, but God's calling you to Islam because of your pure heart. And she said, do not buy into this like this meditation, this like, what did she call it? She's, new age spirituality. That's what she said. Don't buy into this new age spirituality, because whenever you open your chakras or your energy centers, she says what will happen is jinn will be attached to you. And she said something's following you. And so that was the point where I was like, how does this lady know this? Because I was going next door to get like the third eye. You know how some people in Turkey use that? Yeah, I was like, I wonder if that's for me, right? Like, I wonder if this will help me, because I was feeling things following me home. I was having nightmares. I was having all these things happen, and I didn't know what to do, right? So I had my friend say, like, you can play Surah Baqarah, you can play this in your house, right? But the thing is if energy is following you in your home, it's difficult to be able to navigate, and it kept happening. So this lady gives me Ayatul Kursi. So she gives me this ayah, and she says, play this in your house. She said, open all the windows and doors in your house, play this thing. She gave it to me on YouTube. And I said, okay, like, why not? You know, like, I have nothing to lose at this point. So I play it, and then my nightmares went away. And I was like, maybe this is a coincidence, you know, like maybe it's just happening. So one day I decided not to play Ayatul Kursi. And I always tell people, like, this is a trigger warning. If you don't want to listen to my dream, you don't have to. And I only tell this specific dream for teaching purposes and for my story. So feel free to, you guys, if you want to listen and continue to listen, it's only for this story. So I had this dream. And in my dream, like, I'm alive. It's like I'm living, you know what I mean, in real life. I can make conscious decisions. I can do things in my dream. And so I see this living room, and there's a room in front of me and a room behind me. And there's these two twins. And it's the first time that I've actually seen, like, scarred women in my dream. And so I go into the living room, and I never, like, looked back behind me to see the lady in the other room. It was more like I trusted she was there, and she was just whatever. The room was dark, and I just wanted to turn the light on at the front of the room. So I walk towards the front of the room, and I reach up to turn the light on, and I yell out the name Elsa out of nowhere, and I fall to the ground, and I miss the light. And the lady in the front room comes out of the room, and she comes up behind me on the floor, and she put her arms up underneath me like this. And at this moment, I think back to whenever I had that previous dream where I was more comfortable. I was at that state of peace. Whereas now with this lady, I was like, what is she doing? Like, she's trying to make me feel safe, but I don't. It's really awkward and uncomfortable. And I was just confused. And so in my dream, my phone was beside me. And so I grab it, I pick it up, and I go to YouTube like I did every night. And I typed AYA, and she sees me over my shoulder, and she starts strangling me in my sleep. And she wouldn't let me play Ayatul Kursi. And I woke up, and I thought I screamed my whole house awake. I was terrified. And from that moment, that was the moment where I was like, I need to take this more seriously. Like, what is it about this ayah that is like they're so afraid of, if that makes sense? And so I started praying like a Muslim. I started, you know, what's the prayer times? When do I have to do it? Why do I have to pray 5 times a day? And I didn't even know, subhanAllah, I didn't know I had to cover. I didn't know I had to wash. I was like purely doing it because I was like, what is it? And I YouTubed it. And of course, the only tutorials on how to pray like a Muslim is a man. Yeah. So I thought I was doing it right. Yeah. So I'm watching it, and I started to realize, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the angels were waking me up for Fajr. So at this point, I don't know when the notifications are going off, right? I don't know when I'm supposed to wake up. But a minute before my alarm would go off on this app, it was like I was wide awake. And I was like, and I'm just like, how is this happening? You know, like, it was just that undeniable truth where it's like consistently God is showing up for you. And it's just like, what do you do? What do you do when it just, you know what I mean? It works and it happens. And I'm like, this is the only thing. The Quran was the only thing that protected me spiritually.
Andrew Tate, a former kickboxer and controversial social media figure, gained notoriety in the Western world for his comments widely regarded as misogynistic. However, his name became even more prominent when he announced his conversion to Islam. Recently, Andrew shared the reasons behind his decision to embrace Islam in an interview. The host began by asking about his choice to become a Muslim. According to Andrew, Islam is the last true religion, which he believes has followers who still sincerely uphold all its teachings. He also expressed his disappointment with predominantly Christian countries, claiming they have tarnished the image of Christianity. He argued that Christianity is increasingly disrespected in these countries, noting that the LGBT flag is given more respect than Jesus Christ. He believes that Christianity has failed in its role as a protector of society against immoral agendas. Tate contends that Islam is the only faith capable of saving people from evil, and that only through Islam can people find the true path.
What made you convert to Islam?
I think Islam is the last true religion on earth. I think a religion's job is to preserve the society which adheres to it. And I don't think Christian societies are being preserved by Christianity. I think that Christian societies have left in a massive power vacuum, and this power vacuum is being filled with, one, the beauty of Islam, and the other side, it's being filled with an insane worship for the government and leftist insanity and climate change and abortion and all these crazy things that people are worshiping. The LGBT flag gets more respect than Jesus Christ in most Christian countries now. And I feel like with that massive power vacuum, a lot of the evils and Satan's agendas are simply being inserted into public space and public life. And you need God to resist evil. And Islam seems to be the only religion left on earth which is capable of saying no to the evil agendas. So to sit and say, well, I'm a Christian, that's great. And you believe in Christianity, that's great. You live in a Christian country, that's great. But your society isn't preventing the children from being convinced to castrate themselves. Well, then you need to have a long, hard look at your own religion. And that's not my religion to comment on. But when I feel a strong affinity for God, you're instantly and constantly drawn towards Islam because it's real.
An interesting trend is emerging in the world of MMA, where more and more famous fighters like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Jake Matthews, Amber Leibrock, Gervonta Davis, and others are choosing to become Muslim. This has sparked widespread curiosity about why they are turning to Islam.
I'm curious how so many fighters have become Muslims. Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay the first one, Mike Tyson, and there's a whole list actually. Why do you think fighters become Muslims?
Because it's a warrior's mindset, Islam. Islam understands the brutal realities of life, and the brutal realities of life as a man is constant and never-ending war. And I mean that for every man on earth. You're at war right now. If you're at home watching this, you're at war.
Well, that's the term jihad, but it usually means a self-struggle.
No, perfect. Even better. Self-struggle. You nailed it. That's what I was about to say with war. Getting to your job and back without losing your temper in the commute is war. Taking care of your family is war. Raising your children despite the government propaganda being injected into their ear is war. Maintaining a healthy body and mind is constantly war. Paying your bills is war. Life as a man is war. And when you're truly a warrior in your heart and in your soul and in your actions, and you understand how important God is, you're going to end up believing in Islam. You're going to end up being a Muslim.
The most fascinating part of the interview was when the host asked about his conversion to Islam. Andrew has never referred to himself as a convert, but rather as a revert. In his view, the term convert does not fully capture his spiritual journey. Instead, he prefers to describe himself as someone who has returned. This aligns with the Islamic concept of fitra, which plays a significant role in his thinking. The hadith stating that every baby is born in a state of fitra underpins his belief. For him, repentance is a process of returning to this original state. In his perspective, being a revert is more than just changing religions. Thus, Andrew presents a narrative that reinforces his religious identity in a profound way.
Andrew, interesting you say you're a revert, not a convert.
Yes.
Why?
Well, we all start as Muslims, is my understanding of it. Like I said, I'm not an Islamic scholar, but what I found most amazing about my reversion, to be honest with you, is how similar it was to Christianity. It's really not as far away as people believe it is. And I feel like, especially in the Western world, especially in America, because I'm American, the white Christians see it as this faraway religion from a faraway place, and it's very, very different. Not understanding that Christianity and Islam were born from the same period of, same place on earth. We all start as Muslims, is my understanding. And like I said, I'm very careful how I talked about these subjects because there's people more intelligent than me. But it's closer to Christianity than I thought, which is also quite refreshing.